Okay, now it's completely mixed, and I will show you what I do with my fingers. And if worse comes to worse, and it does drop to the bottom, a few flour particles, when you invert it, you can just pick them out. I always take off the crust because it will never absorb in. The minute you take the crust off, you can see all the little holes, and you can understand why you don't have to stick a cake tester in it in order to make them to absorb the syrup. I don't feel anything there, so I guess I've done a good job folding it with a slotted skimmer. It's going to take 30 to 40 minutes to bake a genoise, and it's tested the same way any other cake is tested, by using a cake tester and by touching the top of it to see if it springs back. Can you see how billowy this still is despite all that mixing? Resist the temptation to thump it on the counter to even it. It's even enough, and look what happens when you thump it. The bubbles disappear, which will make it a slightly more compact cake, and it's totally unnecessary. Now I have one in the oven that's just finished baking. And with a genoise, you never really do have to test it, because the minute it comes away from the sides of the pan, you can be sure that it's baked. See, if I touch it, it will spring back. But it's important to unmold it right away, because it's a sponge. It will start deflating if you don't. So to be sure the sides are dislodged, as usual, even though it's come away from the sides, it might have stuck in one spot. Go all the way around it with a spatula. And then be prepared to have 2 racks. I'll explain why in a moment. I don't want it to sit here. Lift off the cake pan, peel off the parchment, and immediately re-invert it so the top side is up. And the reason is that, see how soft that bottom crust is compared to the top? When the top side is up, it helps to keep it from sinking further, whereas the other way, the soft crust would allow it to keep falling, and it wouldn't be the full height. And this is a really nice-looking genoise, if I may say so myself. I'm happy with it. So now I let it cool completely, and if I want to serve it right away, I'm going to invert it onto a serving plate, which means, again, re-inverting it onto the rack, and doing the same motion, but with a serving plate. And of course, when you serve it right away, it's going to be really nice and moist and needs nothing more than just a little gilding of cream or of powdered sugar. And when I serve it without a syrup, I don't take the crust off, because the crust is delicious. When I take the crust off, people nibble on the crust. I can even mix it with some ganache and make truffles. Because all the ingredients are great, why would you want to throw away the most intense part? And now use a serrated knife or a tart knife to cut the slice. And in a moment you will see the inside, which is always the fun of cutting a cake, to see how good a job did you do. Perfect. Look at that beautiful texture. There's no little white spots, it's completely even. I'm going to pour a little puddle of raspberry sauce on it. So here you have the classic French genoise, which is a perfect ending for a rich, delicious dinner, because you have a wonderful, light, airy dessert, beautiful texture that marries well with a fruit sauce or fresh fruit or just by itself. Make it as soon as you can.